You get a Mridanga. Mridanga. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paribrajakacharya Astotra Shata Shri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat Nasta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamasloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Mukam Karoti Vachalam Bhangulangayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurundinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Isharam Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Shrimati Ramapada Swami Ati Namine Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Ati Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Prachardine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Pasyata Deshatarine. Good morning. Welcome to Srimad Bhagavatam class and happy Ram Nomi. Today we'll be reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th Canto, chapter 73, verse 18. Please repeat. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Adya Prabriti Vobhupa Maye Atmani Akileshvare Sudridha Jayate Bhaktir Badham Ashram Sitam Tata Shri Bhagavanu Vacha Adya Prabriti Vobhupa Mai Atmani Akileshwari Sudridha Jayate Bhaktir Badham Asham Sitam Tata Shri Bhagavanu Vacha Adya Prabriti Vobhupa Maye Atmani Akileshwari Sudridha Jayate Bhaktir Badham Asham Sitam Tata. Please chant. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, the Supreme Lord said, Adya Prabriti, beginning from now. Vaha, your. Bhupaha, O kings. Mayi, for me. Atmani, the self. Akila, of all. Ishvare, the controller. Su, very. Dridha, firm faith. Jayate, will arise. Bhaktihi, devotion. Badham, assuredly. Ashamsitam, what is desired. Tata, so. Translation by the disciples of His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, from now on, my dear kings, you will have firm devotion to me, the Supreme Self, and the Lord of all that be. I assure you, this will come to pass just as you desire. One more time. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, from now on, my dear kings, you will have firm devotion to me, the Supreme Self, and the Lord of all that be. I assure you, this will come to pass just as you desire. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments on this verse. O rulers of the earth, this implies that since you revealed by your words in the statement Ta na sama disha, your true nature as devotees of mine, therefore you will rule over the entire earth, disseminating the nectar of the methods of my devotional service. The word badham expresses assurance, with the idea that this I promise you. As you desired, ashamsitam, so, in that same manner, your devotion will become very fixed. My imparting of instruction about the means, your understanding of the means, the execution of the means, and the subsequent fixed remembrance will all be very solid, which implies that now prema bhakti will in a mere moment arise by the immediate maturing of both the means and the goal it aims at, and it will be experienced in this sequence from now on, meaning that it will be experienced as ever fresh. So these kings have been given the greatest benediction by Krishna himself. Sudridha Jayate Bhaktir, that firm bhakti will arise. This can only happen by Krishna's mercy. There's no other way to reach the level of prema but by getting the mercy of Krishna. And it's not by any other process that one comes to the level of pure bhakti. As Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti points out, that the means to the goal and the goal itself are the same in devotional service. So that is to say that bhakti can only be attained by practicing bhakti. when he says, my imparting of instruction about the means, your understanding of the means, the execution of the means, and the subsequent fixed remembrance will all be very solid, which implies that now prema bhakti will at a mere moment arise by the immediate maturing of both the means and the goal it aims at, and it will be experienced in this sequence. So the sequence that he's referring to is that first we practice bhakti imperfectly, and by practicing bhakti imperfectly, our ability to engage gradually increases. We become gradually more purified by the practice or the execution of bhakti, and that purification, that advancement, allows us to practice on a deeper level or at a more advanced level. Srila Prabhupada once said that from impurity, purity will arise. It's a gradual process, however. But there are metrics given to measure the progress. There are so many commentaries, so many books written by the great acharyas, how to measure advancement in devotional service, how to see where we're at on the ladder or on the path of devotional service. And it's by this progressional practice that we come to the stage of pure devotional service. All of the impurities become purified. Everything that is not useful to the practice of devotional service leaves, and everything that is useful is intensified. And once we reach the conclusion, that's when we reach a stage of constant engagement or pure devotional service. But it's not until we're completely clean and completely purified and that we've undergone some examination from Krishna to see just how sincere we are, that prema is bestowed upon us. This is because pure devotional service is the means by which Krishna can be purchased. That's the metaphor used by so many great acharyas. So Krishna is particular about who he allows to have this benediction. In Padyavali, Srila Rupa Goswami says, pure devotional service in Krishna consciousness cannot be achieved even by pious activities in hundreds and thousands of lives. It can be attained only by paying one price, that is, intense greed to obtain it. If it's available somewhere, one must purchase it without delay. Similarly, from some other writings of Srila Rupa Goswami, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has distilled those teachings, namely of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, into the Madhurya Kadambini, where he describes the growth of bhakti within one metaphorically as a bhakti lata, or the vine or creeper of devotional service. And it's given all the way from the seed of bhakti being planted in the heart of the devotee, all the way up to the fully blossomed flower of prema bhakti. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it says, when a person receives the seed of devotional service, he should take care of it by becoming a gardener and sowing the seed in his heart. If he waters the seed gradually by the process of Shravana and Kirtana, hearing and chanting, the seed will begin to sprout. As this seed grows by the watering of hearing and chanting, the vine begins to come from the seed, which Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains to be sadhu sangha, which is the constant throughout the entire process of bhakti. As this creeper grows, there's several leaves that come up before we reach the flowers, naturally. So the first two of these are Kleshagni and Shubhada, which means that in the initial stages, bhakti begins to destroy all inauspicious things, and it grants all auspiciousness. There's 5 types of miseries that we can find in our lives. Ignorance, false ego, attachment, hatred, and absorption in worldly objects. These 5 things start to become purified at the very early stages. And at the same time, there's 11 auspicious things that slowly begin to manifest within us: kindness, mercy, forgiveness, truthfulness, simplicity, equality, patience, gravity, honoring others, not expecting results, and all good fortune. These things come in conjunction with the practice of sadhana bhakti, which means by following the instructions, rules, regulations, strictures given by the predecessor acharyas and by the guru, which for us is 16 rounds, 4 regs, regularly hearing Srila Prabhupada's books, etc. By establishing some basic habits of sadhana bhakti, we run into 5 notable problems, which is called bhajana kriya. This stage is sometimes also called unsteady practice of devotional service. These problems are we suffer from an initial enthusiasm and thick and thin practice with oscillating resolve. We're struggling with sense enjoyment, and we have an inability to uphold our vows, and we are still enjoying some of the mundane benefits of bhakti. These 6 symptoms are very troublesome to one, but we can actually understand them in 2 ways. That we're still contaminated due to our contact with the material energy, so we're not sure yet how to properly and fully engage in bhakti. And 2, that Krishna is starting to test us and see, okay, what if we give some benefits? Is the aspiring devotee going to get caught up in these side effects? Krishna, as I've said, isn't so eager to give prema to those who are unqualified. So he's occasionally testing our sincerity to see if we're actually interested or if we just want some other benefits. So the vine of sadhu sangha at this stage is serving as a steadying factor. By associating with devotees, we learn how to balance out. We're just starting to get our devotional sea legs on a ship of Krishna consciousness, which is piloted by Srila Prabhupada, sailing across the ocean of material suffering on the way to Krishna. At this stage, we're sincerely trying, but these obstacles are no easy feat. And sadhu sangha is our lifeline, which brings us to the next stage by seeing how the advanced devotees deal with these sorts of things. The next stage is called anartana nivritti, which is burning up these troublesome anartas, these reservations, these attachments that we have that are keeping us from performing bhakti. This is the longest stage on the path of devotional service because we all have so many attachments that it takes a while to burn them up. We have obstacles born of past sinful activities, namely ignorance, false ego, attachment, hatred, and absorption in worldly objects. There's obstacles born from past pious activities, the desire for liberation, desire for heaven, and desires for material enjoyment. Then there's obstacles born from imperfectly performing bhakti. We have desires for worldly gain, worship, adoration. And there's obstacles born from past offenses, which are the 10 offenses against the holy name, which are all rooted in inattention. So it's by here that sadhu sangha is showing us how to overcome these obstacles. We do things like go to japa retreats to learn how to chant progressively better, how to actually pay attention when we're chanting, and things like that. And a consistent in this entire process is that by associating with pure devotees, we see their example of how to deal with these different situations, these different problems that arise. We see the correct response to worldly gain, adoration. We see how not to become absorbed in objects of the senses, and how to detach from them, how to separate ourselves from them. So it's by following in the footsteps of the pure devotees that we see how to avoid the potholes along our path, how we refrain from being snared or entangled on the path of bhakti. There are 5 more obstacles remaining before we reach a solid platform of unshakable resolve. These are drowsiness or sleepiness while hearing and chanting, distraction, particularly while chanting, incompetence or lack of enthusiasm to engage in hearing and chanting, and contaminated consciousness where we still harbor anger, we harbor desires for enjoyment, greed, other emotions and things of that nature, and we still have a taste for mundane pleasures, which keeps us from experiencing spiritual pleasure. Now at the stage of Nishta, which is the stage of unshakable resolve, we find our faith and our practices to be unshaken by whatever may be thrown at us. And we also start to manifest some qualities of the pure devotee: kindness, mercy, forgiveness, truthfulness. And at this stage, bhakti is expressed in three primary ways: by performance of the body, by speech, and by what we harbor within our mind. From this stage, we're shown what it is to have actual taste, which is called ruchi. It is the next stage. Ruchi is notable because it's the stage where the real taste for the process of bhakti is developed. At the stage of ruchi, one doesn't become tired by performing devotional service because one has very intense attachment to processes like hearing and chanting. So instead of falling asleep, as one on a lower stage might do, somebody on the level of ruchi is actually becoming more energized, and they're getting more taste and more enjoyment from the chanting and from the hearing. By attachment to bhajan, eventually we become attached to the object of bhajan. And the object of bhajan is Krishna himself. At this stage where we become attached to the object of our bhajan, it's called ashakti. This attachment to Krishna leads to intense transcendental emotions, which are called bhava bhakti. By this stage, one isn't rising early out of regulative principle, but one rises early in excitement to see Krishna's deity form at Mangalarti. One doesn't dress the deity strictly as a service, but dresses the deity in a way that deity wants to be dressed, thinking, for example, that if Radha is dressed in this way, then Krishna will be very pleased. And if Krishna is dressed in this way, then Radharani will become very pleased. At this stage, the taste derived from chanting Hare Krishna keeps one chanting constantly. On the vine metaphor used by Vishwanath Chakravarti, these stages of ashakti and bhava are budding flowers, not quite opened yet, on the vine. By the mercy of Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, and by our intense greed or desire, that's how we make advancement through any of these stages. But the final stage comes from the mercy of Krishna himself. The final stage, the fully blossomed flower, is that of prema, and this is the level of pure devotion to Krishna. Those who are at the level of prema are completely absorbed in devotional service, and one doesn't fall down from this stage. So we should always seek the favor and the blessings of the devotee that is at that stage. So I condensed this as I was writing this class last night. I had a lot more details that I wanted to include. And then I realized, tomorrow is Ram Navami. I should probably talk about that as well. We got a little bit of a late start as well, so that really put the crunch on. But I've moved through in a pretty successful fashion. So I have couple of excerpts that I'd like to read. Both are from a 1968 article in Back to Godhead, written by Satsarup Das Goswami Maharaj. So the first excerpt is as follows. Swami A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada explains the mood of the Lord in his appearances Ramachandra thusly. The comparative studies on the life of Krishna and Ramachandra are very intricate, but the basic principle is that Ramachandra appears as an ideal king, and Krishna appears as the supreme personality of Godhead, although there is actually no difference between the two. A similar example is that of Lord Chaitanya. He appeared as a devotee and not as the supreme personality of Godhead, although he is Krishna himself. So we should accept the Lord's mood in his particular appearance, and we should worship him in that mood. Our service should be compatible with the attitude of the Lord. Therefore, in the Shastras, there are specific injunctions, such as to worship Lord Chaitanya by the method of chanting Hare Krishna. So this is a nice excerpt from that article, which is available on backtogodhead.com, and gives so many nice points. This gives us a window into understanding our relationship with Lord Ramachandra and the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, that actually they are non-different, and we are to worship in that mood which Krishna appears in. So the next excerpt is from Satsvarup Maharaj himself. Millions of years ago, according to Vedic sources, the Supreme Lord appeared on this planet as the warrior Ramachandra in order to execute his will and display the pastimes of the personality of Godhead. As it is stated in the Bhagavad Gita, from time to time I come in order to vanquish the demons and rescue the devotees. The pastimes of Lord Ram are revealed in the famous Vedic scripture called the Ramayana, written by Sri Valmiki. Before being empowered to write the Ramayana, Valmiki had been a plunderer, but by the grace of the great Saint Narada, he became a Vaishnava, that is, a worshipper of the personality of Godhead. Narada had first asked Valmiki to please chant the names of the Lord, but Valmiki had replied that he would not. He was a murderer. And so what had he to do with the chanting of God's name? Narada then asked him to meditate on his murders by saying the name of Mara, which means death. Valmiki agreed to do this and meditated upon Mara. By rapid repetition of the word Mara, 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 he found himself saying Rama, 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 Rama. And by the power of reciting the holy name of God, by the power of reciting the holy name of God, his heart became purified. The Ramayana is written down as a historical epic, but it contains all the information of the original Vedas. Vedic literature, such as the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, of which the famous Bhagavad Gita is a chapter, are especially recommended for this age, even more so than the highly intricate Vedas or the philosophical theses of the Vedanta Sutra, all of which are prone to misinterpretation by the fallen mentality of this age of coral. So diminished is the capacity for receiving God consciousness in this age that the Bhagavad Gita, which was set down 5,000 years ago and was especially intended for less intelligent, is today not understood by the great so-called scholars. These men generally attempt interpretations of the Gita, leaving out the importance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, who is the essence, speaker, and goal of the Gita. Lord Ramachandra appeared on this earth as a man. This means that he actually walked the earth. What is written in the Ramayana, we should note here, is best understood as it is. When the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are narrated, there can be no question of allusion to a higher principle. Allegory means that there is a truth higher than that literal sense of a given text. But the highest realization of spiritual perfection is that the absolute truth is a person, which precludes any possibility of going beyond him. God means the highest reality. He is the one from whom everything emanates. Although he appeared as a man out of the kindness to his devotees, Ramachandra is the Supreme Lord. His history is therefore very marvelous and filled with wondrous feats, as we'll see. Ramachandra was the son of King Dasarath, in the line of King Ikshaku, the first ruler of earth, and an early recipient of the Bhakti Yoga system of the Bhagavad Gita. Lord Ram was the darling of his father and mother, Queen Kaushalya, as well as the hero and darling of all Ayodhya, the capital of what was then the single world kingdom. Rama had all the admirable qualities of leadership, even from earliest youth. Ramachandra possesses all physical strength, all beauty, religious wisdom and submission to truth, fame for prowess with weapons, royal wealth, and complete renunciation. He played the part of a human, and yet his stature as a human was praised by all his contemporaries as being worthy of the gods. Inseparable from Ram was Lakshman, his younger brother. Lakshman was born of Sumitra, one of the 350 queens of King Dasharath. His position is like that of Rama's own self, and nothing is dearer to Ram than Lakshman. Together, the two brothers appeared on earth to vanquish the almost invincible atheist King Ravana and his numberless host of Rakshasas, man-eating warriors. Ramachandra is described as being greenish hue, his bodily luster like fresh green grass, and Lakshman is golden-hued. Lakshman is as attractive and as formidable a warrior as Ram himself. During the course of one of the blood-drenched battles against Ravana's army, Lakshman was rendered unconscious by Rakshasa magic. And at that time, Rama gave vent to a spontaneous expression of love for Lakshman. If I lose kingdom, that I can bear, but I cannot bear the loss of Lakshman. I cannot go on if Lakshman is lost to me. Lakshman was likewise dedicated to the service of his brother and had no other pleasure than to do the bidding of Ramachandra. So that was just an excerpt from a Back to Godhead article. There's one other notable thing for us is Gaudiya Vaishnavas to the pastimes of Lord Ramachandra that is mentioned in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So I'll read this nice brief story. It's actually, according to some, quite controversial, but for us we accept it as the truth as it's written by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami about the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. This is from the first chapter of the Madhya Lila. At Rameshwar, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had a chance to read the Karma Purana in which he discovered that the form of Sita kidnapped by Ravan was not that of the real Sita, but a mere shadow representation. In Srila Prabhupada's purport to this verse, he says, the Karma Purana states that this shadowy Sita was placed into a fire as a test of chastity. It was Maya Sita who entered the fire, and the real Sita who came out of the fire. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very glad to read about the false Sita, and remembering his meeting with Ramdas Vipra, who was very sorry that Mother Sita had been kidnapped by Ravana. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu eagerly tore this page from the Karma Purana, although the book was very old, and later he showed it to Ramdas Vipra, whose unhappiness was mitigated. So it was at this time also that amongst reading the Karma Purana, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu found the Brahma Samhita and the Krishna Karnamrita. The Brahma Samhita is particularly prominent in ISKCON, considering there's actually a really nice story about that I'll have to save for another time. But Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati has written a commentary, and Srila Prabhupada has urged that this commentary be printed, so now we have access not just to the Brahma Samhita, but Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's commentary on it. And we also have this philosophical point, which is often debated amongst scholars of the Ramayana, whether Sita was separated from Lord Ram, whether she was actually touched by the demon Ravana. And it is our conclusion, because of the conclusion of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that it was not the original Sita, but Maya Sita, who went to Lanka with Ravana. So this is just a nice thing to note when we're discussing the pastimes of Lord Ram. I wish I had some more to talk about. I'm not a Ramayana scholar. I'm not even a Ramayana relisher, to be completely honest. But out of affection for Krishna, I'm always happy to talk about any of his pastimes in any particular form. So with that, if anybody has any questions, comments, complaints, concerns, chastisements, criticisms, etc., we have a couple minutes left for that.
Thank you for the class, Prabhu. You were saying that Ravana, he didn't really have the original Sita, so the Sita that he had was a Maya Sita. Is that like the bodily form and not the spiritual Sita?
It was a illusory form. So it wasn't Sita's body. It wasn't anything to do with Sita. It was just more or less an apparition of Sita. It was the appearance that Sita was there, but in fact she wasn't.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Lord Ramachandra ki jai.